Hello, welcome back to the No Theory session. This is where we left off last time. Okay, so, and I might as well play this. This is where this came from. So that's what we started with. The orchestral version is where we advanced to when we took a look at orchestration and things like that. This time we're going to go into adding some more elements to it and orchestrating further. And I'll talk a little bit more about orchestration in general to start with. So last time I spoke about some things to do with groupings and things like that and moving instruments into certain areas. So when I took things like the high notes from the strings and move them into other things, and the low notes and move them into other things. And by things I mean other instruments. So I took the high notes from the piano and moved it into high string notes, and the low notes from the piano moved it into low string notes, and then we orchestrated further from there. There's a few times when I mentioned things like using the tubas because the notes were low. So for example, here I took the low notes, and I can show you this if I... Okay, so here you can see that the red is the piano, which is the original piece. That's this one. And then the purple is the tubas and trombones, which is this patch here. So what I've done is I've orchestrated by groupings. So tubas and trombones are a group that work together. That does not mean that you have to put tubas with trombones, trombones with tubas. That's just a group, and the orchestra patches that I use, the Berlin ones, use groupings. So for example, in the other patch as well, which I'll talk about, I've got flute and clarinet. I do have just a flute in wind solos. I can use just a flute or just a clarinet. But because most of the time people will traditionally orchestrate groupings like flutes and clarinets together, they just beat you to it by giving you a flute and a clarinet. Same with trombones and tubas and loads of other ones as well. But the reason when I say I'm going to take the low notes and give them to the tuba because they're low, certain instruments have certain registers. For example, the easiest and most simple way that you can explain that one is you have low strings and high strings. So you have strings like double basses and cellos that have a lower register and can play lower notes. And then you got violins and violas which go higher. The violins and violas can hit higher notes than cellos and basses, and the other way around, basses and cellos can hit lower notes than violas and violins. So one typically plays higher notes, one typically plays lower notes. That does not mean that they have to always play high notes and have to always play low notes, which is where orchestration comes into it. But usually, typically, traditional orchestras will have lower registered instruments playing lower notes. So if you look exactly here, I have trombone and tubas sustained playing the lower notes. So with that said, let's go on and we'll try and do a little bit more orchestration. For the most part, I'll try and keep it grounded for now because we are learning the basics, and I will just do basic stuff to see what happens, and I'll trial and error some things, as you would, because this whole series is about me simulating not knowing any theory and seeing what I can make happen. So let's give it a go. So for this one, what I've wanted to add is, because we've got a lot of sustained and legato notes here, I'd like to add some spiccatos or staccatos or something like that to try and bring it through. So I'm going to listen to it. I have, again, my MIDI keyboard here, but sometimes for sake of demonstration, I will use musical typing to to try and help someone who doesn't have a MIDI keyboard. This is how I used to play all the time. And this is how you can play too. So let's go through here and see what notes I like. I will keep the musical typing up for now, just so you can see what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm just hitting any old random key. I'm not using any sort of theoretical knowledge or any sort of prior knowledge to theory. And I'm just going to hit some notes and see which notes I like sound where and when, most importantly. So if I play this note at a certain place and it sounds good, but then at a certain place later it doesn't sound good, I need to remember where it sounded good and where I might be able to use it. So I might do a bit of pausing and stopping and trying to get into it. So let's see. So I just kind of like how this kind of carries on the background here, but it's a little bit too present at the minute, so we need to sort that out. So actually maybe I like that coming in, so if I just drag here, it'll change the notes. And maybe if I duplicate this and put this in underneath too. But this time I want it to be, and if you highlight the notes, so these are all the bit that I copied, the bit that's highlighted in the minute. Now this is the only one that's going to be affected, so I actually want this to be louder here. And what I'm going to do is add it in here again, but instead of having this part, I'm going to duplicate this part and move it down an octave. It's all well and good doing it in here. Let's hear it in context. Already I can tell these bits are a little bit too prominent. So let's crank them down. I think what I might do actually is just turn the top of the velocity down. Nice. So what I'm going to do now is humanize. Humanize I've gone through before in my MIDI tutorial, so I'm just going to give that a click. If I go into full strings, what have I got in here? Follow this, try this patch. So I like the sound of these patches instead of this patch. This patch is a little bit too sharp for me. These patches seem to be nicely faded into the distance a little bit more. Let's orchestrate some more with the full string patch. So we have all of the strings played on one patch. What I want to do is separate this out. So much like everything else I've done in here, I will orchestrate. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just copy the whole patch and I'm going to move it into different patches. Okay, so I've done some separating out here. What I have for the high strings is this. It's all a little bit one note after the other, you know. It could be separated out more, there could be some more done to that, but hopefully you can hear that and you know that. Maybe you want to take some notes out, maybe you hear yourself where you change some stuff, so hopefully it should enthuse you to do it. The low strings, this is what I've done here. I'll need to mute this. And I've got a low suspended and a mid legato, so now let's hear it all together. So what I might do here is these high strings are a bit too much at the start, so I might change the patch of the start of this and remove this, take this note and delete it, and I'm gonna put it in, let's do a tremolo. If I go to the modulation, I'm also going to add that same note into this patch, but I'm going to drag it on a little bit longer, fade it out a little bit longer, and have it start way up there, and also up an octave. Let's do a automation curve on this one. I have gone through my Logic intro and this kind of stuff. Feel free to watch that. This is my left and right click, basically. I want a pencil tool now. Let's layer this up. What would it sound like if I put it onto here? Yeah, let's remove some of these though. Turn the velocity down. No, the modulation. Nice, so let's listen to that in context. I actually only like violins at that point. So let's go back to high string. Let's take this. Let's just fade this all the way in from there. I'm also going to drag the tremolo on. And I want to add the tremolo back in over here too. Let's see what we can do with the horns. Let's take this out. Let's have the horns come in here. Hello, it's Future Tom here. I took a phone call and forgot to unmute my mic while I was recording this. So what's happening here is I am playing in some percussion. To do that, I'm just playing my MIDI keyboard while it's recording and just playing some stuff that I like. And now I'm going to go through and edit all the MIDI that I like and don't like. I'm changing velocities, I'm having stuff fade in, fade out with velocities, moving notes around to where I like them. I'm also adding a low percussion here that's just going to like boom throughout underneath everything. And then I'm going to add some crescendos somewhere in the middle, which is where it's pre-made drums that just roll in and roll out. You can do it yourself, but this saves a lot of time in finding stuff that you like. I've layered them as well, so there's a few in there more than one. And then I'm just playing some more stuff in here. I'm using brushes. Brushes and sticks are great for percussion. I have a Holds Toil percussion. Be good to watch that. Check that out. Anyway, History Tom's going to come back in as I time machine out of here. Thank you. Okay, so what I've added here is a couple of percussion elements. So in my percussion SFX, I've got a very low drum, which I really love. A couple different variations. And that'll just help bring out some lower register. In the frame drum, I have a frame drum. Oops. Like that. And then in the whole drum, I have some brushes, sticks, and a crescendo. All together with the music. There's a little bit in here I want to clear up, because the track's starting to get less dissonant. I do want to keep the dissonance, but maybe try and take some out or move it, orchestrate it a little bit more. So I think it's in the brass. Yeah, this little bit here. Let's try choir, maybe. Okay, so here's my choir. These note here, I don't want to legato. So what does this sound like with the rest of it? I think the brass still comes on a little bit too strong. So what I've done now is change a little bit of automation, move some notes around, added a couple notes in too. And there's less presence in that brass now, so it helps a little bit. I want to add in some strings to compensate that. Alright, so I have extended these spiccato notes, and I've changed the high note here. I think I've deleted one and extended this note and just modulated it in and out so it doesn't clash so much. And I have added in a low note and changed some of the brass around. So let's listen to the whole thing once more. Nice. I'm going to add in a couple little cymbals and some more little textures from the percussion, see what we get. Okay, so I've added in some, you can't see that. So I've added in some more percussion. I've got in these little bells. I've added in some other little bits here. If I solo this. Some cymbals. On an anvil. So let's hear it in context. Another anvil, and then whoops, and another one. No, not the last one. So it's really interesting just comparing the two things that have been made. So if I open up the this is what I'll do is I'll play the original piano, and then right after it I'll play the orchestral version. remember to make that, we just drew in some MIDI notes on the musical typing. And just drag stuff and chop stuff up and saw what sounded nice. As you can see, it's all one velocity. Let's hear the orchestral. So what you can do with that, obviously this is only, what we at, 30 seconds long. What you can do with that, if this wasn't going to be some sort of splash screen or stinger or something, is you could drag this out. You could turn this into a, you know, a 5-minute track or a 3-minute track, or even a 10-minute score or something like that for a short film. There's loads of little themes in here that you could take. If we just listen to the start of this here. I mean, I can take that and just turn that into a theme, just these 3 notes. There's always a running theme, and just those 3 notes could be that theme. And I could just do little stuff in between and play it again, and, you know, create themes and little leitmotifs and things like that, and make a whole score out of something like this. And remember where it came from. Just, that's the most important part, is remember that we got this from just pressing some notes on a on some musical typing. That's where this came from. So there's no reason why you can't do this. You don't need all of the plugins that I've got. You just don't. There's loads of free stuff out there. Loads of free stuff. If you can't get free stuff, Logic has its own stuff, and things like that. And the thing that's going to make it sound good, or at least better, is using the techniques here. So stuff like modulating and stuff like applying effects to the MIDIs and things. So when it came to the percussion, those are all different velocities, so they all sound different. When it comes to cymbals and the other percussion parts and things like that, more of the same. When it comes to like the choir and other legato notes that aren't really affected by velocity, I had to do something with modulation to get them to sound a little bit better. And then especially stuff like the brass coming in and out, all the modulation to do on that. Same with the strings. That's what makes it sound good. Not so much the plugins. Plugins help massively, don't get me wrong, because plugins can open you up to loads of new ways of composing, because they have features and things that other plugins don't, and they've got built-in stuff that you wouldn't need to buy, and yada yada, all that kind of stuff. And they also, the way that the instruments are recorded in the first place and then made into these playable plugins is also a great thing to be considered itself. Much like East West was recorded a long time ago, different equipment recorded, whereas the Spitfire stuff and things like that are recorded more recently, so they've got a different value to them. I'm not going to say which one's better than the other, I'm just going to say that they are all different. But, you know, whatever sound you want is available out there that you might not have to pay money for. And just do this stuff, kind of get used to it and get good with it. And if you can get good with doing this kind of stuff without spending thousands and thousands of simoleons, then you can, when you do end up spending thousands of simoleons, you can really take off then, because you already have the basics in there. You know how to modulate, you know how to manipulate all your MIDIs and make stuff sound far more expressive than it was from just a static, you know, non-dynamic piece of music. So good luck with that. I hope any of this, if some of it helped at all. Let me know if there's any questions. Have a look through my tutorials, because there's stuff in here that wasn't explained that was explained in my tutorials. If you need any information on anything else, or you want me to make a video about something in here or something else related to it in here, then let me know and I'll do what I can. Good luck and thank you. Bye bye.